The diplomatic shuttle's hull screamed with the high-pitched whine of stressed metal, a sound that cut through the artificial gravity like a razor. Dr. Elena Rodriguez gripped the edge of her observation console, her augmented reality display flickering with a constellation of warning indicators. Red. Always red. 36 hours earlier, everything had seemed possible. The Zarn diplomatic vessel had arrived with the calculated precision of a species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Its massive silhouette, a geometric nightmare of obsidian and platinum alloys, had slowly approached Earth's primary orbital platform. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, though no one could have predicted exactly how it would unfold. Elena remembered the briefing as if it were burned into her retinal implants. The xenoanthropology team had spent years studying Zarn communication patterns, cultural structures, and diplomatic protocols. They understood the aliens' hierarchical society was rigid, built on millennia of systematic expansion. Every interaction was a carefully calculated transaction, every diplomatic exchange a complex algorithm of power and submission. Humanity was supposed to be just another data point in their galactic conquest. The first signs of trouble emerged during the initial communication sequence. The Zarn delegation, led by Prefect Krell-9, had approached the negotiations with an almost mathematical certainty of Earth's capitulation. Their translation matrices carried an underlying tone of condescension that human linguists had immediately flagged, a subtle linguistic marker that suggested the Zarn viewed humans as something less than sentient. "You will comply," Prefect Krell-9 had stated during the initial transmission, as all emerging species must comply with the concordance of aligned civilizations. But something in the delivery, a microscopic hesitation, a barely perceptible variation in the communication's quantum encoding, had alerted Elena. Her wife, Major Kira Takahashi, had been monitoring the communication from the Emergency Response Center, her fingers dancing across quantum-encrypted interfaces. "They're hiding something," Kira had muttered, her eyes reflecting the cascading data streams. Now, watching the diplomatic shuttle disintegrate against the starlit backdrop, Elena understood the full weight of that observation. The explosion was not random. It was a calculated elimination. Fragments of alien meta-alloy spun in the vacuum, catching the light of Earth's orbit like deadly, beautiful crystals. Each piece told a story of betrayal, of a carefully orchestrated plan that had just gone catastrophically wrong. In her hand, Elena clutched a data crystal, the only remaining piece of evidence that would explain everything. Recovered in the milliseconds before the shuttle's destruction, the crystal contained quantum-encrypted files that would change everything humanity understood about their place in the galaxy. Her augmented reality display began to compile the initial forensic data. Cause of destruction: deliberate quantum resonance disruption. Target: complete elimination of human diplomatic personnel. Method: integrated subspace detonation designed to leave no traceable evidence. The Zarn had made a fundamental mistake. They believed they were dealing with a fractured, primitive species, one that could be easily subdued through traditional galactic conquest protocols. They didn't understand that humanity's greatest strength was not in its individual components, but in its capacity for collective, unpredictable response. Elena's communication implant buzzed. Kira's voice, calm and razor-sharp, cut through the static. Orbital Platform Sigma is initiating emergency protocols. All diplomatic personnel are being evacuated. What's your status? Before Elena could respond, another warning flashed across her display. The data crystal in her hand began to pulse, not with a mechanical rhythm, but with something more organic, something that suggested the information contained within was far more than a simple record of events. Outside the observation window, Earth hung like a blue-green jewel, beautiful, vulnerable, and far more dangerous than any galactic civilization could imagine. The point of no return had been crossed, and humanity was about to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. The command center beneath Geneva's shattered diplomatic quarter wasn't supposed to exist. Not officially, at least. Dr. Marcus Chen's fingers danced across a holographic interface that seemed to breathe with living data. Around him, the most unlikely coalition in human history worked with a synchronicity that would have been impossible just days ago. Former rivals, tech moguls, military strategists, quantum physicists, and underground network hackers moved with a unified purpose that defied every previous limitation of human cooperation. Project Prometheus's go, Marcus muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. The room fell silent. Every screen, every holographic display showed the same cascading streams of quantum-encrypted data. The Zarn thought they had destroyed humanity's diplomatic hopes. They had no idea they'd just activated its most dangerous potential. Aisha Rahman, a 27-year-old network architect who had spent the last decade building invisible global communication networks, leaned forward. Her eyes, enhanced with bio-optical implants, could see patterns that others missed. "The quantum entanglement network is stable," she reported. "We can route communications through every connected device on the planet." What the Zarn saw as a fragmented human civilization was actually a meticulously prepared global organism. Years of apparent political division had been a carefully constructed illusion. Every government, every major tech corporation, every research institution had been quietly preparing for this moment. Marcus remembered the early days of the preparation. It had started almost 3 decades ago, after the first confirmed extraterrestrial signal was detected. A classified project, known only as Horizon Initiative, had brought together the most brilliant minds from every corner of the globe. "They think we're divided," General Rebecca Martinez said, her prosthetic arm, a marvel of adaptive quantum-responsive technology, flexing almost imperceptibly. "They have no idea." The screens around them began to populate with real-time data. Satellite networks, quantum communication relays, and a distributed network of artificial intelligence systems started to align. Each system was more than just a piece of technology. They were nodes in a living, breathing global defense mechanism. Project Prometheus was more than a defensive strategy. It was a complete reimagining of human technological potential. Aisha's fingers flew across her interface, and entire communication networks began to shift. Quantum-encrypted channels opened and closed in milliseconds, creating a communication matrix that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Traditional interception methods would be useless. "First wave is ready," she announced. Marcus walked to the central holographic display. A 3-dimensional representation of Earth emerged, pulsing with interconnected lines of energy. Each line represented a communication channel, a potential point of resistance, a weapon more powerful than any traditional military arsenal. "The Zarn believe they understand networked systems," Marcus said, his voice clinical and precise. "They don't understand organic adaptation." General Martinez stepped forward, her augmented eye scanning the holographic display. "Every smartphone becomes a sensor, every computer a potential weapon, every connected device part of a global immune system." The plan was elegantly simple and monstrously complex. Transform human technological infrastructure into a single adaptive organism capable of responding to threats in ways no traditional military could comprehend. "Quantum entanglement communication," Marcus explained to the room, "allows us to create a network that doesn't just communicate. It thinks, it adapts, it learns." Screens around the room began to show initial infiltration attempts. Zarn communication networks, so rigid and hierarchical, were about to encounter something they had never seen before, a truly distributed, unpredictable system of resistance. Aisha's smile was razor-thin. "They're going to learn that humanity's greatest strength is not in our individual capabilities, but in our capacity to become something greater than ourselves." The first wave of the counterattack would not be a military strike. It would be something far more dangerous, a complete reimagining of technological warfare. Outside the underground command center, the world continued to spin. Cities bustled. People went about their daily lives. They had no idea that beneath their feet, a revolution was being born. A revolution that would redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. Project Prometheus was live. and the Zarn had no idea what was coming. The first wave hit like a digital tsunami. Deep in the Atacama Desert, Aisha Rahman watched the initial assault unfold across her quantum-encrypted displays. Her fingers moved with a musician's precision, each keystroke a note in a symphony of technological warfare that would redefine humanity's place in the universe. The Zarn occupation fleet had approached Earth with the arrogance of a species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their massive ships, geometric nightmares of obsidian and platinum alloys, carried technologies that had subjugated civilizations for millennia. They expected submission. They would receive something entirely different. Quantum-entangled communication systems began their work, a network so complex and adaptive that it defied traditional understanding of information transfer. What the Zarn saw as a communication network was actually a living, breathing organism of technological resistance. The first signs were subtle. Navigation systems on Zarn vessels began to drift. Microscopic inconsistencies appeared in their quantum-locked communication channels. Redundancy protocols, the backbone of their technological supremacy, started to fragment in ways that defied mathematical probability. Target acquisition is compromised. A Zarn bridge officer reported, his translator implant flickering with unexpected static. Prefect Krell 9 turned, the multiple neural clusters that served as their brain processing the information with machine-like precision. Explain. But explanation was impossible. In the Atacama Command Center, Aisha watched the initial infiltration with a predator's satisfaction. Project Prometheus was more than a defensive system. It was a complete reimagining of technological warfare. Each human-connected device, from the most advanced quantum computer to the simplest smartphone, became a node in a global resistance network. The devices didn't just communicate. They adapted. They learned. They became something more than the sum of their parts. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice crackled through the encrypted channel. First-stage infiltration is exceeding predictive models. We're seeing exponential adaptive response. Spacecraft began to malfunction in ways that defied conventional understanding. Navigation systems twisted, communication channels collapsed, and strategic networks began to unravel from within. The Zarn had a fundamental weakness they hadn't recognized. Their technological systems were hierarchical, centralized, predictable. Humanity's network was organic, distributed, constantly changing. In orbit, Elena Rodriguez watched the initial stages of the technological uprising from the damaged orbital platform. The data crystal she'd recovered pulsed with an almost living energy, its quantum-encrypted contents hinting at capabilities far beyond what even she understood. "They're trying to isolate their systems," Elena muttered to herself, her augmented reality display showing the intricate dance of technological warfare. "But they don't understand. We're not trying to break in. We're becoming the system." On the Zarn flagship, Prefect Krell 9 experienced something unprecedented. Confusion. Their neural clusters, designed for absolute computational precision, began to encounter information that didn't conform to known parameters. Humanity's attack wasn't a traditional assault. It was a complete reimagining of technological engagement. Aisha's fingers continued their dance across the interfaces. Each line of code was a weapon. Each algorithm a strategic strike. The human technological response was evolving in real time, learning and adapting faster than the Zarn could comprehend. "Quantum resonance protocols are destabilizing," one of her team reported. Aisha's smile was sharp enough to cut vacuum. "We're just getting started." The Zarn had conquered worlds through technological superiority. They believed in the absolute power of their systems, the inevitability of their expansion. They didn't understand that humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology, but in its capacity to transform, to become something entirely unexpected. As the first wave of the technological uprising reached its peak, one thing became crystal clear. This was not a war of weapons. This was a war of evolution. And humanity was about to show the galaxy what true adaptation looked like. Outside the Atacama Command Center, the desert stretched to the horizon. a reminder that some of the most powerful transformations happen in the places nobody expects. The war was won long before the first shot was fired. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood this fundamental truth as she studied the captured Zarn communication officer. The interrogation room was anything but traditional, a quantum-shielded space that existed simultaneously in multiple states, a technological marvel that would have been impossible just a decade ago. The Zarn officer, designated as Intercept 7, sat motionless. Its multiple neural clusters were unlike any human brain, a complex network of interconnected thought matrices that processed information with machine-like precision. But right now, those clusters were experiencing something they had never encountered before: complete psychological dissonance. "You expected submission," Elena said, her voice calm and clinical. "Instead, you've encountered something your entire civilization cannot comprehend." Intercept 7's translation matrix flickered. The words that emerged were more than language. They were a window into an entire civilization's fundamental weakness. "Deviation is not possible," the officer repeated, a phrase that had been programmed into its neural matrix since inception. "Compliance is the only rational response." Elena's augmented display parsed every microscopic reaction. The Zarn's communication systems were built on absolute hierarchical control. Every interaction was a carefully calculated transaction, every diplomatic exchange a complex algorithm of power and submission. Humanity was about to demonstrate why that model was fundamentally flawed. In the underground command center beneath Geneva, a team of linguists, psychologists, and quantum communication specialists worked on something far more sophisticated than traditional psychological warfare. They were developing the communication strategy that would systematically dismantle the Zarn's entire societal structure. Dr. Marcus Chen reviewed the initial data streams. "We're not just attacking their communication networks," he explained to the team. "We're exploiting the fundamental psychological limitations of their collective consciousness." The Zarn had conquered hundreds of worlds through a simple, ruthlessly efficient method. They identified emerging civilizations, assessed their technological capabilities, and then presented an ultimatum: complete submission or total elimination. Their hierarchical society left no room for individual initiative, no space for unexpected adaptation. They had never encountered a species like humanity. The first wave of psychological warfare was subtle. Disinformation campaigns began to infiltrate Zarn communication channels. But these were not traditional misinformation strategies. These were quantum-encrypted psychological algorithms designed to exploit the most minute weaknesses in their collective thought processes. Major Kira Takahashi watched the initial infiltration from the Emergency Response Center. Her augmented eye, a marvel of human adaptive technology, tracked multiple communication streams simultaneously. "Target is experiencing cognitive dissonance," she reported. The words were clinical, but there was an underlying current of something else: excitement, anticipation. Intercept 7 began to show the first signs of psychological breakdown. Its neural clusters, so precise and controlled, started to experience something unprecedented: doubt. "Your collective is impossible," the Zarn officer repeated, but now there was a microscopic hesitation, a crack in the absolute certainty that had defined its entire existence. Elena leaned forward. "Impossible is just a failure of imagination." The psychological warfare was a multi-layered attack that targeted every aspect of the Zarn's societal structure. Communication channels were infiltrated. Cultural databases were subtly manipulated. Every piece of information the Zarn received became a potential point of psychological destabilization. They were discovering that humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology. It was its capacity to understand, to adapt, to become something entirely unexpected. "We are rewriting the rules of engagement," Marcus muttered, watching the data streams cascade across his quantum-encrypted display. Outside the interrogation room, Earth continued to spin, a blue-green jewel that had just become something far more dangerous than any galactic civilization could have imagined. The psychological battlefield was open. and humanity was about to show the galaxy what true resistance looked like. The adaptive combat suit was more than technology. It was alive. Major Kira Takahashi felt every microscopic adjustment as she moved through the experimental testing facility. Located deep beneath the Andes Mountains, the facility represented humanity's most radical technological breakthrough, a fusion of biological understanding and quantum-responsive engineering. Her suit wasn't just protection. It was a living, thinking weapon that learned and adapted in real time. Each movement generated millions of data points. Quantum-responsive nanites woven through the suit's molecular structure constantly analyzed environmental conditions, potential threats, and optimal response strategies. Where traditional military technology saw armor and weaponry as separate systems, this was something entirely different, a symbiotic extension of human potential. Quantum resonance at 98.7%. The suit's neural interface reported, its voice a blend of synthetic precision and organic undertone. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from the primary observation deck, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that mapped every microscopic change in Kira's suit. This wasn't just a piece of military technology. It was a complete reimagining of human-machine interaction. The Zarn think they understand adaptive systems, Marcus muttered to Elena Rodriguez, who stood beside him. They have no idea what we're about to show them. The suit was just one element of humanity's secret arsenal. Across the globe, similar technologies were being deployed, each one a node in a larger, almost incomprehensible network of resistance. In Tokyo, underground research facilities had developed urban infrastructure that could transform in milliseconds. Buildings could become defensive structures. Transportation networks could become communication relays. Every piece of human technology was being reimagined as a potential point of adaptive resistance. Kira moved through a series of advanced simulation scenarios. The suit responded to each challenge with something beyond programmed response. It anticipated, it learned, it evolved. A holographic representation of a Zarn invasion scenario materialized around her. Traditional military strategies would have seen this as an impossible situation: overwhelming technological superiority, multiple attack vectors, complete environmental control by the enemy. The adaptive suit saw something else entirely: opportunities. Calculating optimal response matrix, the neural interface reported. Quantum encrypted communication channels began to pulse. The suit wasn't just analyzing the scenario. It was communicating with other adaptive systems across the globe, creating a distributed intelligence that defied traditional understanding of tactical response. Elena watched the data streams with a predator's satisfaction. "They thought we were divided," she said quietly. "They didn't understand that our greatest strength is our capacity to become something greater than ourselves." The Zarn had conquered worlds through technological standardization. Every system was predictable. Every response could be calculated. They believed in the absolute power of their technological supremacy. They were about to learn the true meaning of adaptation. Kira's suit began to shift. Microscopic nanite structures realigned, creating new defensive capabilities that didn't exist moments before. The holographic Zarn invasion scenario found itself confronting something entirely unexpected: a defensive system that wasn't just responsive, but predictive. Adaptive response exceeding theoretical models, Marcus reported, his voice a blend of scientific precision and barely contained excitement. Outside the facility, the Andean mountains stood as a testament to geological adaptation, a reminder that the most powerful transformations happen slowly, then all at once. The adaptive frontier was open, and humanity was about to redefine the very concept of technological warfare. In orbit, watching from damaged platforms and hidden communication relays, humanity prepared for the next phase of resistance. The Zarn thought they were facing a traditional military engagement. They were about to discover something far more dangerous: a species capable of becoming whatever it needed to survive. The turning point came from an unexpected place. Deep within the quantum communication networks that spanned the globe, a series of algorithms began to dance. They were more than lines of code. They were a living, breathing strategy that would redefine galactic conflict. Aisha Rahman watched from her command center in the Atacama Desert, her fingers moving with a precision that blended human creativity with machine-like calculation. Each keystroke was a weapon more powerful than any traditional military arsenal. The Zarn's faster-than-light communication network, the backbone of their galactic dominance, had been their greatest strength. Now it would become their most catastrophic weakness. Quantum cascade initiating, Aisha muttered, her augmented eyes tracking multiple streams of encrypted data. From orbital platforms, human forces began a synchronized assault that defied traditional understanding of warfare. This wasn't about destruction. It was about systematic deconstruction. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice crackled through the encrypted channel. "We're not just breaking their systems," he explained. "We're revealing the fundamental fragility of their entire technological paradigm." The attack began with microscopic infiltrations. Economic algorithms developed to predict global market behaviors were repurposed to target the Zarn's resource allocation systems. Each calculation was a precision strike, each data packet a potential existential threat. On the Zarn flagship, Prefect Krell 9 experienced something unprecedented: confusion. Their communication networks began to fragment in ways that defied mathematical probability. Redundancy protocols, the backbone of their technological supremacy, started to collapse from within. What had seemed like an impenetrable system revealed itself to be surprisingly vulnerable. Elena Rodriguez watched from the damaged orbital platform, the data crystal she'd recovered pulsing with an almost living energy. "They built their civilization on the assumption of absolute control," she said to Kira. "We're about to show them the power of unpredictability." The human counterattack was a multi-layered assault that targeted every aspect of the Zarn's technological infrastructure. Communication channels twisted, strategic networks unraveled. Each system's attempt to compensate only exposed more vulnerabilities. In Tokyo, adaptive urban infrastructure began to transform. Buildings became communication relays. Transportation networks turned into distributed computing systems. Every piece of human technology became a potential point of resistance. "Quantum resonance protocols are destabilizing," one of Aisha's team reported. But this was more than a technological attack. It was a complete reimagining of conflict. The Zarn had conquered hundreds of worlds through a simple, ruthlessly efficient method: identify, assess, subjugate. They had never encountered a species that could turn their own technological superiority into a weapon of systematic destruction. Major Kira Takahashi's adaptive combat suit interfaced with global networks, creating a distributed intelligence that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Each system learned from the others, adapting in real time to exploit the tiniest weaknesses in the Zarn's technological infrastructure. "They're trying to isolate their systems," Kira reported, her voice clinical and precise. "But they don't understand. We're not trying to break in. We're becoming the system." Prefect Krell 9's neural clusters began to experience something unprecedented: doubt. The human attack wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about revealing the fundamental limitations of the Zarn's technological paradigm. Every attempt to compensate only exposed more vulnerabilities. Every defensive mechanism became another point of potential infiltration. From orbital platforms, the assault continued. Communication networks twisted. Strategic systems began to fragment. The Zarn's faster-than-light communication network, once the backbone of their galactic dominance, began to collapse from within. "We are rewriting the rules of engagement," Marcus muttered, watching the data streams cascade across his quantum-encrypted display. Outside, Earth continued to spin, a blue-green jewel that had just become something far more dangerous than any galactic civilization could have imagined. The invasion was breaking, and humanity was just getting started. The negotiation room was a battlefield of a different kind. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a space that defied traditional diplomatic protocols. The room itself was a marvel of quantum adaptive technology. Walls that could shift, communicate, and analyze in real time. Representatives from every continent, every major human civilization, surrounded her. This was more than a diplomatic delegation. It was a living testament to humanity's unexpected unity. Prefect Krell 9 sat opposite her, the alien's multiple neural clusters visibly destabilized. What had once been a model of computational precision now displayed something unprecedented: uncertainty. "You do not understand the concordance," Krell 9 began, its translation matrix struggling to maintain its usual clinical tone. Elena's smile was sharp enough to cut vacuum. "On the contrary," she responded, "we understand it perfectly. We're simply rewriting its fundamental assumptions." The data crystal she had recovered during the initial conflict pulsed subtly on the negotiation table, a silent reminder of the technological revolution that had just transformed galactic politics. Behind her, Major Kira Takahashi stood like a sentinel, her adaptive combat suit now configured as a diplomatic interface. Every movement, every micro-expression was being analyzed by quantum communication networks that spanned the globe. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice came through her neural communication implant. "Remember," he said, "this isn't about vengeance. This is about reimagining interstellar cooperation." The Zarn delegation had arrived expecting submission. Instead, they found themselves facing a species that had systematically dismantled their most fundamental technological and societal assumptions. Their faster-than-light communication network, once the backbone of their galactic dominance, had been transformed into a weapon of psychological and technological deconstruction. Every attempt to reassert control had only exposed more vulnerabilities. "The concordance requires compliance," Krell 9 repeated, a phrase that had once been an absolute statement of power. Now it sounded like a desperate plea. Elena activated the holographic display. Layers of data began to unfold, a comprehensive breakdown of how humanity had not just survived the invasion, but fundamentally transformed the very concept of galactic engagement. Economic systems that had supported Zarn expansion were now revealed as surprisingly fragile. Technological networks that had seemed impenetrable now looked like outdated relics. Every assumption the Zarn had made about emerging civilizations was being systematically dismantled. "We're not asking for membership in your concordance," Elena said, her voice calm and precise. "We're offering something entirely different, the complete reimagining of interstellar cooperation." The human delegation represented a spectrum of human potential. Scientists stood alongside military strategists. Quantum communication experts conversed with cultural anthropologists. This was not a traditional diplomatic team. This was a living, breathing demonstration of human adaptability. Kira's adaptive suit began to generate subtle quantum resonance fields, not as a threat, but as a demonstration. The suit was simultaneously a defensive system, a communication interface, and a living piece of technological art. "Your invasion," Elena continued, "revealed more about your civilization's limitations than our own vulnerabilities." The Zarn delegation found themselves experiencing something unprecedented. They were not in control of the narrative. Every diplomatic protocol they understood was being systematically deconstructed. "We propose," Elena said, activating the holographic display, "a new model of interstellar engagement, not based on conquest, but on mutual technological and cultural exchange." The proposal was radical. It suggested something beyond the Zarn's hierarchical understanding of civilization. Not submission, not conquest, but a truly collaborative approach to galactic development. Prefect Krell 9's neural clusters began to process the implications. This was not a defeated civilization offering terms. This was a species presenting a completely new paradigm of interstellar interaction. Outside the negotiation room, Earth continued to spin, a blue-green jewel that had just redefined the rules of galactic engagement. The diplomatic crucible was open, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what true cooperation could look like. The orbital station hung like a delicate spider's web against the infinite darkness of space, a testament to humanity's most profound transformation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside her wife, Major Kira Takahashi, watching Earth, a blue-green jewel that had just rewritten the rules of galactic engagement. 6 months had passed since the Zarn invasion. 6 months that had changed everything humanity understood about its place in the universe. The data crystal she had recovered during the initial conflict now resided in a quantum-sealed containment unit. It was more than a piece of technology. It was a symbol of humanity's unexpected potential. "They didn't just underestimate us," Alina said quietly. "They couldn't comprehend us." Kira's adaptive combat suit, now reconfigured into a research interface, generated subtle quantum resonance fields. The technology that had been humanity's defensive weapon was now becoming its most powerful tool of exploration and understanding. Below them, Earth had undergone a transformation as profound as the technological revolution that had repelled the Zarn invasion. Global communication networks that were once divided now functioned as a single adaptive organism. Research facilities that had been competitive now shared information with unprecedented openness. The invasion had revealed humanity's true potential, not as a collection of competing nations, but as a unified species capable of extraordinary adaptation. Dr. Marcus Chen's holographic projection materialized in the orbital station's primary observation deck. The quantum communication network that supported his transmission was a far cry from the rigid systems the Zarn had once dominated. "The first joint research missions are preparing for launch," Marcus reported. The Zarn's technological archives, surrendered as part of the new interstellar cooperation agreement, were being integrated with human research databases. It was more than an exchange of information. It was a complete reimagining of scientific collaboration. Aisha Rahman, now leading the Integrated Galactic Research Initiative, had been instrumental in developing the new communication protocols. What had begun as a defensive network had transformed into humanity's most powerful tool of exploration and understanding. The Zarn had arrived expecting to conquer. Instead, they had encountered a species that defied every assumption of technological and cultural engagement. "We're not just sharing technology," Aisha had explained during the initial post-invasion conferences. "We're creating an entirely new model of interstellar cooperation." The orbital station itself was a testament to this new approach. Sections that had been damaged during the invasion had been reconstructed using a combination of human and Zarn technologies. It was no longer just a human facility. It was a living example of collaborative potential. Alina's fingers traced the quantum-encrypted displays. Data streams from multiple research initiatives cascaded around her, each one a testament to humanity's newfound perspective. "We didn't just survive," she said to Kira. "We transformed." The invasion had revealed something fundamental about humanity. Their greatest strength was not in their technology, not in their military capabilities, but in their capacity to become something greater than themselves. Kira's hand intertwined with Alina's. The adaptive technology of her combat suit interfaced subtly with the station's systems, a living demonstration of the symbiosis between human potential and technological innovation. Outside the observation deck, the vastness of space stretched out, no longer a realm of potential conquest, but a canvas of unexplored potential. The Zarn had arrived with an ultimatum: submission or destruction. They had received something entirely unexpected, a species capable of reimagining the very concept of engagement. The first joint human-Zarn research vessel prepared for launch. Its design was a marvel of collaborative technology, neither fully human nor fully Zarn, but something entirely new. The living demonstration that true progress comes not from domination, but from understanding. Earth continued to spin below them, no longer just a planet, but a symbol of unexpected potential. The stars would never look the same again. Humanity had just begun its true journey.